My family has this huge Disney history. My great-grandparents were friends with the Knott's family, and my grandpa had worked at a steakhouse at Knott's sBerryFarm. My grandma had worked at Disneyland. My great-grandma had worked at Disneyland. I was actually thinking about it while I was driving, and I was like, where did all this stem from? And I was like, I think it does come from the fact of just being around all that as a kid, just being around amusement parks and entertainment.
I'm glad you actually came over here and are hanging out with us tonight because it's been a long time coming.
Thank you so much for having me. This is really exciting. This is actually my first podcast, so I'm really excited to be doing it. And then also just to hang with you because, I mean, I've been keeping up with your stuff for years and seeing you do all this cool stuff. And it's so nice to meet Michelle as well.
Thank you.
So awesome to be in this space. And
Trevor, where are you from?
Originally from Orange County.
Okay.
And when my family moved out to Santa Clarita, my mom and my dad, and then my dad, because he was in radio at the time. So we were closer to where, I guess, iHeart now. It was Clear Channel, I think, at one point, but where the offices were.
Okay.
So it was a closer commute. So I grew up out there as well for probably the first 7-8 years of my life. And then it was back to Orange County. And then I've done a lot of moving around.
Wait, so your dad was in radio?
He was in radio.
That's awesome.
He was doing a lot of this. He talked on the radio, I think, back in the early 90s. He was, I think, known as G.I. Joe on the radio, I think is what he was, what is known as.
That is very cool, yeah.
So then later on, he then got to Kiss, and he was working with Seacrest and JoJo, Manny Streets.
Maybe
I don't know
him.
Maybe I know him. Do I know your dad?
You might. Might have just missed each other, or he saw you right in that transition. I'm not sure.
Hi to your dad. That's awesome.
Hi,
that is so cool. And so what about you? Because I could hear it in your voice a little bit that you have that radio sounding voice naturally.
Oh, well, thank you. It's funny because, I mean, that was just something I kind of picked up over time where I think I'm watching TV or watching cartoons, just listening to people use their voice or voice announcers at different places, Disneyland. There was all these places where I made friends with people who did that as a living, and I was like, oh, that is
getting that influence
coolest.
everywhere you are.
Yeah. Just like every piece of, so many pieces of influence just from different places. And for a long time, I was like, oh, I want to get into voice acting. I want to be behind a microphone and doing something, whether it's with radio or entertaining people. Or middle school, high school, I became known as like the voice person at school. So it was very
nice.
I was either hosting like shows
Throughout the whole school?
throughout the whole school.
Ah, that's cool.
Or doing,
I got to do that when I was in high school. Yeah, I did the same thing. One of the things too is, well, there's two things I want to talk about. You know, the person we watch the music video of right now in a little bit, but I want to hold on to that. Okay. The first part is that, you know, I see you traveling all the time.
Yes.
I see you at Disneyland all the time. So what is your connection with Disneyland? Because I feel like
It's my kind of friend right here.
Does Trevor work for Disneyland? What does he do exactly? What does he do? What do you do?
Well, so the Disney part of me, I guess, goes way back to my family has this huge Disney history that a lot of people don't know about, actually, unless like they were close friends with me. I could tell them the stories, but which I guess I will share on here.
Yeah, share with us.
Now everybody's going to know.
Now everybody
Secrets
knows.
out.
No secrets.
But, oh, man, it goes back to my great-grandparents. My great-grandparents were friends with the Knott's family of Knott's sBerryFarm.
No kidding. Wow.
Yeah, which I think is like the coolest thing in the world. I'm like, wow. So I guess amusement parks then kind of started there in the family, and my grandpa had worked at a steakhouse at Knott's sBerryFarm. My grandma had worked at Disneyland. My great-grandma had worked at Disneyland. My mom worked at Disneyland. My dad worked at Disneyland. So it kind of continued and became almost like a family tradition in a way.
Yeah.
But it was just there was all this weird family history and
Did your mom and dad meet?
No, that's the strange thing is they were working there at the same time, and they didn't meet. They met later at like some random. I think they were both working as brand ambassadors, or maybe he was doing radio at the Orange County Fair.
So there's a gene of entertainment inside of you guys because you know amusement parks is entertainment,
right?
Film is entertainment. It's all entertaining,
and I think that's where. I was actually thinking about it while I was driving, and I was like, where did all this stem from? And I was like, I think it does come from the fact of just being around all that as a kid, just being around amusement parks and entertainment, and because all of that kind of goes together, especially with Disney, which is where that kind of ties everything together. Where Disney is just they're so detail oriented with everything, the movies and so I mean I grew up. My family took me there all the time. My younger sister, so we grew up pretty much raised on Disneyland at Disneyland and just hearing all the family stories of history and all of that. And so,
what did your dad and mom do? Do you know when they were working at Disneyland?
My dad, he worked on attractions. I think he did the canoes, and he was working on Pirates of the Caribbean, Haunted Mansion. Mm-hmm. And my mom, she was a tour guide of the parks. So, and then my great grandma worked in the candy shop.
Wow.
And my grandma,
So cool.
I think my aunt had worked there at one point too. So really, it just keeps going.
It's a Disney family.
It is. And then my other aunt, she was working with Disney Cruise Lines and stuff. So it was just a whole.
That's incredible.
So it was a very big Disney family. So yeah, if you're ever at one of our family events, Disney's going to come up no matter what.
Yeah.
Probably at some point. So I'm like, sorry if you don't like Disney. But it's funny because I always got made fun of growing up too because everyone's like, you live at Disneyland. You're always at Disneyland. I was like, yeah, but I'm like, there really is just like a family tie, and there's just a sense of joy when you go there.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's changed a lot over the years, definitely, especially more now than ever. It's just rapidly. They're just with technology.
I hear that it's gotten a bit complicated now on how to get in, pick your day, pick your line. Like it's a little.
There's a lot of reservation stuff going on now.
Which I don't know why they kept that system. They kept it since the pandemic, which I understand why they had it during the pandemic, which to limit the capacity. But now I don't know.
The last time I was at Disneyland was the iHeartRadio Christmas party.
Oh my gosh, those
It's been more recent.
Do you remember those?
But still a few
I love
years.
those. Yeah. Man, we
you
used to
had
go.
a party there?
We every Christmas the entire company iHeart rented out either California Adventure or Disneyland, and we would used to roam around, and all of our coworkers and everybody, everybody's significant other, and we had the whole park to ourselves.
It's amazing.
That is so cool.
It's probably like the most empty you could get Disneyland too. It was so.
What did you think of those?
Oh, I love those. Yeah, I mean, it was like an excuse to stay up late. Also, like if I had school, it was like, oh, whatever. I'm gonna go on Disneyland. And
Yeah.
So it was just another reason to be at Disneyland, or another story to the list of endless stories there. But those were the coolest parties. And then they'd take over the music system, and they would stream the radio music there.
Yeah, Coast 103.5.
Yeah, so you wouldn't be listening to Disney's music.
So you could hear that out of the speakers?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it really felt like a party there, and they had like special lights going on. They even did private showings of the parade, which, usually on a regular day there, you have to fight to get a spot.
Yeah.
Even on the floor, no matter where.
Yeah. Some people will sit there for hours just to have like a front row seat. There, you could just be walking and watch it go by. Nobody's really lined up for it. It just happens, and you're like, oh, that's cool. And they did. Yeah, it was just a really cool. That was a really cool party. I think they still do it, but they do still do it. A lot of fun.
You really do have a family tie to the whole amusement park thing. I mean, going back to the
blood. Yeah,
your great grandparents. You said knowing the Knotts family.
Yeah,
that's pretty historic.
I know. I think that's the coolest thing. I need to sit down and really dig deeper into those stories and hear all about it. But even my grandpa had some connection with how Doritos were created at Disneyland, actually, which a lot of people don't know. Doritos were created at Disneyland at their Mexican restaurant, and they were just taking tortilla scraps instead of throwing them away. They're like, oh, let's put some cheese powder on it and serve them to the guests.
No
and then that
kidding.
was how. And it was at
What?
Casa del Fritos was the name of the place, which the Frito-Lay company, and then it turned into Doritos.
Wow,
it was a cool, fun fact.
I'm learning so much stuff today.
It was a really cool fun fact. I was like, no way. And then I was like, my grandpa, another grandpa, not even the same one that I mentioned. There was just weird. Everybody somehow, even from outside, had some connection with Disney. It was,
even to this day, as people are, we're talking about people struggling. Everyone's struggling.
Right.
We're talking about Michelle's episode where she was talking about, let me help you try to get a job. Here's how I interview. Yep. It's because a lot of people are struggling. A lot of people are trying to find a way to get back on the payroll and trying to find their way in this life. But the one thing that has sustained, the one thing that has persevered through all these hard times is good quality entertainment. And no matter how hard at times people are having, they will pay for good entertainment.
Yeah.
that is true. When you think about back in even the early 2000s, how many movies were being produced a year? And you think about how many movies are produced now in theaters, and you're like, oh, you don't even see that many movies anymore.
Yeah, and I feel like they use the same actors for almost every other
I
movie
know.
these days.
Yeah.
There's no auditions. They just call them and say, I want to be, I'll be the best role.
Yeah. Or after the Oscars, like whoever's nominated, they'll just grab that person and say, because they're the name that's known at the moment, like Timothy Chalamet, they'll be like, he's nominated for an Oscar or he won an Oscar. All right. Every movie for the rest of the year is going to be using him for whatever.
I feel we're not tired of Timothy yet, but I feel like at some point we're gonna be.
Yeah, because I haven't seen him a lot lately.
I like him. Yeah. I'm a fan of him.
Yeah.
He's talented, but that Wonka movie just didn't go anywhere with me.
I didn't see that one.
I liked it,
Did you?
but I love the original.
The original,
so it was really hard for me to love it, but I liked it.
But no, it's true. And then a lot of these movies are being filmed in front of a green screen. So you kind of miss that feeling of being shot on location.
Yeah.
What do the cinematographers think? And it's kind of their job, right? To find these locations and shoot the beautiful landscape of
and travel to the location.
Yeah. And as somebody who loves videography and even done like cinematography for short films and whatnot, I think about that all the time. I'm like, I can't work with just an empty space or like blue screen. I'm like, I can't even picture this in my head. But I mean, the director might be able to describe it, but when I try to picture, I'm like, I can't. I need to see something. I need to see like architecture, something just to details to, and I think
you kind of have to get like a feel of your surroundings, right? Like,
and with certain technology today, I don't know if you've seen the behind the scenes for. I think it was Jungle Book that came out a few years ago. The live action.
Okay.
They were doing the visual effects in like live time, so they could see on their monitors what all of it looked like while the kid was acting. I was like, that's really interesting. So maybe some of that is kind of, but I love the classic on location and building sets. And
do you think we're ever going to get back to that?
I hope so. Yeah. I hope so. That's why I really respect filmmakers like Christopher Nolan, who's like, no, we have to do everything practical, very little use of CGI.
Have you seen that one behind the scenes shot of Christopher Nolan's film Dunkirk? Where it's that beach scene, and it's towards the beginning, and the guy is running, and the camera's in front of him. So the guy's running like, as the camera's backing up, and there's bombs being exploding, landing and exploding behind him because he's trying to run away.
Right.
And you think all that is CGI, but that guy actually ran the full 5 minutes, and there's real explosions behind him. Right. It's wild.
That's cool.
That's
very
to
cool.
me, that's filmmaking. That's
I think even with actors, that's something you can really respond to on set too, instead of being told like, hey, just fake that there's an explosion going on behind you when there's actually an explosion going on behind you and you're terrified that you're going to get hit with it or by it. And I think that same scene you're talking about.
That comes out in your acting.
It does.
Like if you feel the fear a little bit, you can see it in your face.
Absolutely.
And see it in your movements.
Yeah. And I think for that same scene you're talking about as well, I remember even for soldiers in the background, he used cardboard cutouts. To instead of using CGI to like make so many of them, he just used cardboard cutouts of them in the background. You couldn't even tell that they were. But I mean, that's him. Like that's his.
There's something real about that because even if you are not aware of what cinematography is or what CGI is,
right?
I guarantee you, it's in some small capacity, the viewer can feel the difference between a CGI background and a real background. There's something that's there, or there's something that's missing.
Man, I'd love to just like sit down and pick his brain. So you let me know when he's on the show.
Christopher Nolan?
Yeah, right. So you let me know when he's
We'll get there. We'll get there one day.
Yeah.
Isn't his his new film Odysseus or The Odyssey? That's his new film. Yeah, The Odyssey. Yeah. It's going to be. It's wild. I didn't even know that story, The Odyssey. Do you? It's the Greek story about the.
Probably a long time ago.
I know. I learned it in early school.
It has to do something with a horse, right? In like the Greek mythology, and I don't know.
Something like that.
I have no idea. I don't remember.
But I'd be down to watch.
What is your favorite Christopher Nolan film?
Oh man. I'm gonna have to go with Interstellar. Although Oppenheimer's now up there.
I love
very
Oppenheimer.
close second.
I agree with both of you guys. I think Interstellar is so good because it's one of the best films I've ever seen. It reminds me of 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Yes.
Yeah.
Except this one is more rewatchable. So you can watch Interstellar all the time.
Yeah.
Oppenheimer is genius, great. It's a great film, and I would watch it again. But you can't really watch that movie, like
just
on a Friday
twice.
night. Yeah,
maybe
it's
twice.
Right.
Yeah. You
It's
can't
a little slower, and, but both amazing films with great soundtrack. That's what sucks me into it every time too. I just want to watch it to hear the music.
It's the music that drew you in, right? I mean, because Oppenheimer had everything.
Yeah.
It had the acting, cinematography, it had the story, but it also had the music.
Yeah. And it's interesting because sometimes that can make or break a film. And if I'm trying to picture if it had a different soundtrack, which maybe I'll make a video about that or something. See if put a different soundtrack and see how it sounds. But I feel like that would have definitely affected the film in a different way. But that was great.
But yeah, even the soundtrack. Man. I would listen to the soundtrack over and over again because it was good.
Yeah.
It was really good.
Especially that track. I mean, that's the one that went viral. That there was something about that and the whole science behind it. That what's amazing too is the composer did it all from home. He did it from home with his wife, and he did it all digitally. Never had an orchestra, and so
sounds like he has an orchestra.
Right? But he was playing every instrument, and his wife was playing violin, just layering all these different sounds to make that whole soundtrack.
Ludwig, I've never heard of him before this film, which is wild because it was always Hans Zimmer. Always.
Right.
Right.
Which he was doing The Mandalorian, I think, before this film, and he'd done Black Panther, I think, as well.
Okay.
But, and he did Tenet. I forgot about that movie.
Gotcha.
But that
is Tenet the one film that we can all agree that was with
I
Christopher
did
Nolan?
not see Tenet.
It's a bit confusing. It
is confusing.
Yeah, it's just a little all over the place.
And I feel like they released it too soon during the pandemic. And I think that was his argument as well. I think he said Warner Brothers had released it kind of without his permission, sooner than he wanted. And yeah, it didn't hit right the way it should have. And it was the one movie that was supposed to bring everybody. It was the one movie that came back in theaters that was supposed to bring everybody back during the pandemic. Which I have a fun story about that too. But where I miss Christopher Nolan by
what do you mean? Tell
minutes.
Me. Wait, you were in the same location?
Yeah. So like I said, I grew up in Orange County, and we had this outdoor mall called the Irvine Spectrum, which was this. Yeah, love that place. And they have a Ferris wheel, a great big movie theater. They had done a whole renovation to this movie theater. It was.
Didn't they do a renovation to the whole thing recently?
They did.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and
I just ate there at Habana.
Oh, that's a great restaurant. That's a great restaurant. Oh yeah, and my friend and I, we wanted to see Tenet, and we decided to drive down there because it was the only theater that was open during the pandemic. No other theater was open, but because they had just finished renovations, they're like, we can't go under. They had to open.
Yeah.
And so my friend and I, we were the only two people in this theater watching Tenet in IMAX. And we'd come out and we were like, it was all right. It was okay. And the manager's like, hey, he's like, what movie did you see? And we're like, we just saw Tenet. He's like, well, you guys just missed Christopher Nolan. And we're like, what do you mean? He's like, he was in the theater next door to you with his wife. And it was just the two of them. And it was just two of you.
No, really?
It's like, are you kidding me? I was like, which way did he go? Where did he go?
Can I go and look?
Yeah, I know.
Can I go and look for him?
Where's dinner reservations at?
He's like, he was just standing in here talking to us for 20 minutes. I was like, you got to be kidding me. And he went there because it was the only IMAX theater available. Mm-hmm. And he loves his IMAX. He loves shooting in IMAX. He loves watching his films in IMAX. So he had gone all the way down to Irvine, I guess, to watch this film in the same place. And we did the same thing from LA. We went from LA to Irvine. We're like, what the heck? Just by minutes.
Since you guys know a lot about film, and I was wondering how they were talking about The Brutalist was filmed. What is VistaVision? Do you know what that is?
Ooh.
Because it had a caption and it said, now featuring VistaVision. And that's how it was filmed in. And maybe that's why they could show it 70 millimeter or something. But
I think it's a type of film. But
and I could tell it was different when I was watching the movie, but I'm like,
it's
that's
very
really
vintage
interesting
film, I think.
Yeah, it did look vintage.
It says it's a high resolution widescreen film format developed by Paramount in 1954. Mm-hmm. Unlike traditional 35 millimeter film, which runs vertically through the camera, VistaVision runs the film horizontally, allowing for a larger image area per frame.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I loved the cinematography in that movie. Every image looked like a picture, which I loved. I was like, wow, it looks just like it looks like a film, oh my gosh, like a film cell. It just looked like beautiful,
right,
the whole time.
It reminded me of because it reminded me of that movie when you said filming on location. That looked like you were there in another country, several countries or different places. That it didn't look like any green screen. And the only thing I know that they did like AI was the language, right? They said
Right.
It's such a
I heard-
difficult
yeah.
language to teach in a short period of time to have the actor speaking in that language. So they used AI, and it got a lot of flack for that. But
Yeah.
I think it was pretty smart to use
It
that.
was smart. I mean, that's something I would have never thought of for language. That's very interesting. But yeah, they are a little under fire for that, and I hope it doesn't affect the nominations too much.
Well, it
But-
won a whole bunch of or nominees for Golden Globes, like a whole bunch of
Yeah.
awards.
What
like
I love
7
is
of them.
Adrian Brody came kind of out of nowhere
Yeah.
for and he's been out of
he disappeared for a little bit.
Yeah, but
I
I've
loved him in The
recently
Pianist.
Yeah,
It's-
he was great in that one.
that movie's
yeah.
a classic. And then recently I've seen him walking around New York City on his Instagram, and he just randomly walks by himself, just saying hi to people. It's the weirdest thing. It's like so you're saying The Brutalist is I should go watch it.
Yeah. It's
okay.
it's definitely it's worth sitting there for.
Okay.
I liked it a lot.
But
that
it's
was
long.
good.
It's very
It's
long.
very long. It's 3 hours and 35 minutes.
Okay.
4 with the intermission.
Yeah,
I think
4 or
that-
so with the
Wow.
intermission.
Goodness.
It's
Yeah.
long.
Well, you know what? One of my favorite films is The Heat. Al Pacino, Robert De Niro.
Yeah,
that
that's
one's
great.
3.5 hours long.
Is it that long?
Yeah.
I've seen it a few times too. I don't even know if I
'Cause it's that
realized
good?
that.
And that was the thing with The Brutalist too, is that there wasn't a second where I was bored and feeling
Yeah.
like it was dragging.
Really?
Like it was just
And it was a little bit slower. It was a little bit slower,
was
like
slower.
a lot like dead air where people aren't talking,
Yeah.
and then like a lot of just conversation.
Yeah.
But it built a story rather
Mm.
than you sit there idle and bored. Like it did
Right.
build a story, and I usually get sleepy at movies, and I purposely went at 5 instead
Yeah.
of like
okay.
9,
Yeah.
and we were wide awake through the whole thing.
That's awesome. Okay, fine.
And
I wanna
also
go
a great
watch it.
soundtrack. That
Yeah.
But with the images too, I think if there was a slow moment in the film, I was probably just looking off at like whatever was on the screen. I was like, that looks amazing.
Yeah.
That looks amazing. So I do want to see it again, but
Yeah, you would like it.
kind of like Oppenheimer. I don't know how many times I could watch that one.
Yeah, maybe once or twice.
I think
Yeah.
it was last week. I had the option of with my friend. We were going to go to the movies, and it was either watch Nosferatu
I want to see that
or
too.
The Brutalist. And
Okay.
I felt like maybe The Brutalist might have been a little boring for her. Like for me, I love those kind of films, but I think for her, so I picked Nosferatu. And Nosferatu, it was
you
all
like
right.
it?
It was cool. Here's my take on. I've seen the original 1922 Nosferatu.
I thought I wanted
silent
to see that
film.
first.
The silent film 1922 Nosferatu was actually kind of scary
Yes.
for
That's
being
what I-
a
yeah.
silent
Yeah.
film.
Yeah.
It's weird. And here's the crazy part. So it's all based on Bram Stoker. I mean Dracula, right?
Right.
Which Dracula's based on Count Vlad of the Romanian Empire of some, I forgot what era, and he was like this evil emperor, right?
Right.
And Vlad apparently has this like mustache that Nosferatu has in the new film. So here's the other part of that. Robert Eggers, I think, am I saying his name right?
Yeah.
Robert Eggers. I'm gonna tell you a little something about Robert Eggers, okay? So I don't know him personally, but I will tell you this. When I was living in Hollywood, I go to a lot of film festivals. Me and Lewis, we get invited to this, and that. And we just happened to, I guess I don't know if we were late or if we just didn't have a choice to pick what movie. So we had to watch Robert Eggers' The Witch with
Okay.
VV.
Okay, yeah.
And we walk out of that movie theater as grown men. And we both look at, and it's Hollywood at this point is a desolate street. It's 2 a.m. on a Tuesday, and it's just,
You're scared.
and we're like, and here's the thing about that film. There's no jump scares. There's no gotcha. Oh my gosh. There's no really gore. There's not really much blood. So you're like, okay, so what makes it scary? It's the tone. It's the atmosphere. It's the ambient. There's so much to
the music too will
It's-
like
Right.
build up and
Right.
make it really eerie.
And I told myself, I go, God, I don't think I would ever want to watch a movie like that because there's horror, right? There's like, cut your head off, but then there's Robert Eggers. It's like what he gets that film and he puts it in your blood and it sits there for a couple of weeks, and you're thinking about it.
I'm
And
gonna have to watch The Witch now.
well, if you want to, and here's my thing.
He said if you want
So
to.
but then when Nosferatu came out, I'm like, wait a minute, I know the story of Nosferatu,
Right.
and so I went to go.
Yeah.
Have you seen it?
I have. And I saw his film before that. I think it was Beau is Afraid. I wish it started off great, but I wish I could unsee that movie because it was such
There's a
a
few I wish I could
such a
see.
waste of. That might have been. Sorry to him, but I think that was the worst movie I've seen in years. It was hard to get through, but it started off so well, and it's like something just happened. So I was kind of reluctant to see the new Nosferatu, but I knew the story. I'd seen the original. I was like, all right, I have to see it because and the cinematography is what got me to the trailer, and they really advertised it as like a scary horror film, which again, his style is very different. So it's a lot slower, and the atmosphere is kind of what makes things unsettling in his movies. But I liked it. I don't know if I loved it, but I liked it.
I agree. You have a choice to watch any Dracula movie, and you've never seen not one Dracula movie. I'll say watch Bram Stoker's Dracula from 1992.
Yeah. I feel like they introduced him too soon. He spoke a little too much, or he spoke too soon. I feel like they should have kept him a little more eerie in the dark a little bit. Mysterious.
It was that end scene for me that I was like,
that was hard to, yeah.
Yeah, it's just, if you ever want to. Okay, so I want to ask you, because we're passionate about film and movies and everything like that. So
I could talk all night.
I want to know, okay, do you have like a top 2 or 3 films of all time? Because Michelle and I've asked other guests like Molly Brandenburg about, her favorite films. What are some of yours?
Oh, man. I have so many favorites, but they constantly change. Kind of like
mine do too.
Different times of life. You read a book and you're like, this is my favorite book now because of, when you go through different life experiences and your answers change, or the way you perceive a movie or a song or anything really art related, it changes over time, which is it's cool. That's like the beauty of like rereading or rewatching or re-listening to something.
Sometimes they mean different later in life to you.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, especially if you go through the experience of what they're kind of talking about, and then you can relate to it more. You could hate a song or a movie at one point, and then later you're like, wow, I love this because I know exactly what's going on. But since I was a kid, I've always said Titanic because something about not even just the movie, but the actual event itself intrigued me. I was always fascinated by the event of Titanic for some reason, and just working on that film would have been amazing with James Cameron. He did everything practically for the most part and built the ship and actually had people sliding down the ship. And I was like, oh, I'd love to be one of those stuntmen that just like falls into the water. And I was like, that looks so cool. But just how real it looked. I remember just being completely captivated by that film and thinking, wow, that like even to this day, I'm like, I wish I could have worked on that set. That would have been amazing. And I just loved that movie. Also great soundtrack. Everything to put together in that movie is
a lot of people don't know that James Cameron invested a lot of money, I did with flight school. James Cameron did with deep sea diving.
Right.
Oh,
yeah.
really?
Yeah, and he takes
prepare himself for the film.
But I think he fell in love with it outside of film. Like it's his new thing.
Yeah.
He does it I don't know, does he do it just because now it's a new passion?
He just loves it. And what's so funny is because in the movie Titanic, you see them kind of go down in those little submersibles and go to see the ship. And from the money he made from that movie, and I think Avatar as well, I think a few years ago, or maybe it was after Titanic, I want to say it was more recently, he went down to see the Titanic with a bunch of to check it out. No, actually he went, I remember. It was I think on 9/11. He was actually at the bottom of the ocean with Bill Paxton while the event was taking place like above ground. And so they were down there like looking at the ship and didn't know what was happening up.
So random.
Right. And didn't know what was happening up above. So, and I think, so it was after Titanic that he was able to get all that money and he just loves it.
That's one of those movies that you could really get a picture of what might have happened.
Yeah.
And even though a lot of it is dramatized,
right,
or just passed along by stories from people that were there, a few people that survived or something, but it makes it look so real how he made it.
Yeah.
Right.
Like I could really, I really wanted to believe that was exactly what happened. Those are those people. And they played until the ship went down.
Wasn't that an iconic scene where they played till the ship went down?
And I heard about that when I learned about the Titanic years ago, and then went to see it. You're like, this is how I pictured it happening. Yeah.
And it's great because when you watch that movie too, it looks so nice for being 1997. You take movies from the same year, and you're like, the quality difference is
well. You know what else is iconic about Titanic is when the Titanic sank in 1912.
Yep.
That's when Michelle and I met and became friends.
1912.
1912.
That's how long we've known each other. It's been so long.
I wanted to come to you, Michelle Zuno.
There's too many.
Pick like one or two.
Okay, remember.
Like for example, if Trevor and I were like, hey, we're gonna go over, we're gonna hang out with you and Justin, and you're gonna put on.
Story. I worked at Blockbuster, so I have hundreds in my head.
Oh wow.
What about Man on Fire? I thought that was.
I love Man on Fire.
I thought Man on Fire was gonna come up.
Yeah, that one's one of my favorite of all time. Also, one that I go back to all the time because I have it on DVD and I still rewatch it, and I made Damon watch it. So Damon wants to watch it. He's my son. Wants to watch it multiple times still to this day. What Dreams May Come.
Oh,
with Robin Williams.
yeah.
Only because, like the Titanic, it's so crazy. Every scene, every picture, it's scary. It's scary. It's sad, but it's like happy and sometimes, and you feel like you're in a whole different world watching it. So I like movies like that too.
There's this Instagram account called Good Movies or just something like that, right?
Yes.
Oh, now I got to follow that.
And they were talking about this one film. What is it called? The Substance?
Yes,
right?
with Demi Moore.
Okay,
Oh
and
my gosh.
I didn't like that movie at all. In fact, I almost kind of walked out.
They said it was stupid.
It was, it wasn't about the gore. It wasn't about any of that. It was just, it felt like a MTV music video to me.
Yeah.
And it was just so fast paced, too fast paced, where it felt visually great. It was visual. I mean, it was awesome visually, but like, it's not a film. It's like the way it's shot. It's too crazy. Anyway, long story short, I go on and I say unpopular because everyone's like, "Oh, I love this film." Oh, there it is. Blah, blah, blah. So I type
unpopular opinion.
I think I saw that. Yeah, it was
unpopular opinion. I didn't like this film at all. and comments.
Everyone's like,
Were they shitting on you?
There was this one person on Instagram. They're like, "That's because you're not part of the demographic."
And what demographic
And so
is that?
I look at her account.
Like, wait a second.
She's like this, like
Is she an influencer?
emo, like like purple hair, kind of, like looks like Halloween,
Yeah.
Oh, man.
No, definitely not.
Maybe you're right. Maybe you're right.
Definitely not.
It's funny.
But she won her first Golden Globe with that movie.
Demi Moore.
Yeah.
Wow, Demi Moore hasn't won a
Her
gold.
speech was incredible.
It's nominated for Best Picture, too.
Yeah, it was
That's
so. Her
interesting.
speech was so moving because I think she could have won for G.I. Jane or Ghost or any of those phenomenal roles that she played, and they passed her up for those. Or I don't know what won in those years. Maybe it was something better. But for this movie of all things, but she said, like, finally somebody recognized me.
Which that was an interesting movie. I thought it was fun. It wasn't like
You saw it too?
it was one of those I can watch once. I don't need to see it again. But it was.
I hear the end. I missed out on the end.
You walked out.
Oh, you walked out.
I did. I didn't watch the last.
Oh, the end was probably the best part, best scene.
Okay.
And I was like,
Now I got to watch it.
but the scene with I don't know if you made it to the scene with Dennis Quaid where they're having the lunch meeting and he's eating the shrimp.
Yes, I was there for that.
That killed me. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, that was
Is it
really hard to
close-up
get
on
to
his, like, sucking
close
the
up and then
tail?
like just the sound of just him just like chewing on shrimp.
But what I did like is they paid homage to a lot of other horror films like The Shining.
Yes.
And I saw that. I noticed that right away. So I'm like, okay, cool. Maybe there's hope.
Yeah.
But nah, that's I mean, to me it was just like it fell flat. And so I want to ask you this, Trevor. Do you think Hollywood in the industry today is kind of, making a resurgence or a comeback to relate to the people as far as like the average moviegoer? Example, like there was a time when like there were the all the best picture nominees were movies that most general people didn't watch or even knew about.
Right.
Everybody was watching, the big blockbuster, Marvel movies or this and that, but all these artistic films that were nominated, nobody even knew or cared. So, do you think Hollywood's done a better job, or do you think it's still there's a gap between the good films for what they say versus the people who are actually going to go watch them?
That's a great question. Man, cool. Well, something I've noticed over the years was that the smaller studios like A24, Neon, were putting out some of the best films. Personally, that I thought. I've thought like their storytelling was so weird and out there, and I don't know if you saw Everything Everywhere All at Once.
I didn't see that
liked
one
it.
yet.
Oh yeah,
Was it good?
I liked it.
like these smaller studios are putting out these really great stories, and the blockbusters are just and the bigger studios are putting out the okay movies, and so I feel like there is somewhat of a gap in a way where there needs to be I don't know, something needs to be kind of, like, even with Disney, I'm like, like I used to really like their films. Now I'm like, they're kind of hard to watch. But I think storytelling needs to become more of the focus again, because I think people have gotten so wrapped up in the technical aspects and something where like just the art of storytelling is kind of disappearing in most studios, I'd say. Or I think there's just too much focus on the financials and all that, where they're just not focusing on the story as much anymore. And I think that's where where films used to be really strong, was in the story aspects. And I think that's where they're kind of struggling a little bit. And we just need to figure out a way to bring back good storytelling.
That's a great point, because that's what it all comes down to.
That's what it all comes down to.
Good storytelling.
That movie was different too. It was like kind of strange the way they told the story.
What movie?
Everything Everywhere All at Once.
That movie.
That one.
Well,
Yeah,
you know what?
it was-
You know what good
was
storytelling is it's able to touch literally everybody in that theater watching. Any walk of life, anybody that's different, it still touches them.
Right.
And that's what good storytelling is. It almost doesn't matter about how big of a budget the studios have, or if it's the same 4 actors that they use for every Marvel film. It's good storytelling.
And with Everything Everywhere All at Once, it was a smaller budget movie. And what's interesting is that all of the editors for that film did it from home. They didn't do it out of a studio.
Really?
They did it all and they learned all the visual effects from YouTube tutorials.
No.
And so they were watching YouTube videos during the pandemic, trying to figure out, like, how can we do this? And they used After Effects and different just stuff from home, all of it from home for that movie. And when you watch it, it looks amazing. Yeah, the big cast. That's probably where all the money went, was to the cast. But just the fact that they did all of that from home just is mind blowing.
So what drove you? I mean, maybe I guess we already know, but maybe not. What drove you and what got you started in film?
Well, I loved watching movies as a kid. E.T. I know E.T., Wizard of Oz are like the two that I can remember from when I was really young. I think probably the first couple movies that I can actually remember watching as a kid. And those two, obviously, E.T. obviously stuck with me forever. That's probably why I get a little emotional over it when I watch it too by myself in a theater. I'm like,
I'm glad I wasn't the only one.
I ended up getting into acting as a kid. And so I took acting classes in LA. And actually, I auditioned for Barney. That was like one of my earliest. I auditioned for Barney. Actually, I was going to audition for Barney. I'm sorry. I was a very shy kid, actually. And so my parents knew I wanted to be an actor, so they drove me to an audition. And I was about to walk in. And I said, never mind. They were probably so mad because we drove far, I think, for it too. And I was all the way up until I got there. I was like, yeah. And I watched Barney so much as a kid. So I'm like, yeah, like they knew that's what I wanted to do. And then chickened out right when I got there.
Y'all never mind.
Yeah. And I was a very shy kid. I didn't talk to adults, which was like the weirdest thing. Because now I'm just in my life, I'm just friends with so many adults and people who are older than me. And I'm like, but as a kid, I was like, I couldn't even talk to my preschool teacher. I think I peed my pants, actually. I remember that very well. I remember that where it was like story time. Yeah. And I was in preschool. Like, if anyone has to go to the bathroom, just raise your hand. I was like,
he's like, I don't want to talk to you. I can't raise my hand.
Like, nope.
If I raise my hand, people look at me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And so I just distinctly remember just like, nope, I'm going to suffer here. I'm going to say, here, I'm going to suffer. Just pee my pants right there. And then like got up and they're like, what happened here? I was like, wasn't me.
I was like the opposite kid, like going up to the old people. So what's going on here?
Yeah.
What are you guys talking about?
Right. Yeah.
But
you've always been able to talk to everybody. I think that's probably what it is. Yeah. And you're a photographer.
Yeah. I mean, I do it more as a hobby for fun. There was this award show called the Annie Awards, which is like the Oscars, but for the animation industry.
Nice.
And so they would have this, it's a very intimate show. I think it's streamed online, but it's not televised yet. It's not that big, but oh my gosh, this show was amazing. And I got to take pictures backstage in the green room of all the nominees and the winners and with their trophy and everything, and met the coolest people. Angelina Jolie.
Wow.
Kobe Bryant.
Wow.
There's just so many crazy cool
Kobe
people.
Bryant.
And Kobe Bryant, yeah.
That's her baby daddy, by the way.
Oh, I thought, wait.
We're joking.
No.
Not real.
No, really, no.
No, I just realized that I think the anniversary was it yesterday?
Yeah,
The 26th.
yeah.
Or the day before, yeah. Yeah, which he was very cool. I got to know him for
Yeah, he's a nice guy.
2 different years. I got to spend some time. I got to watch him for a night backstage.
You know what? I think there needs to be more animation for adults.
Yeah.
I really do. And I think, like Family Guy, for example, is like, just one aspect, but that you can go so many different directions with animation.
Right.
You know?
And that was the thing that was so amazing too is since Kobe had retired from basketball. Whoa, John Williams. There's a whole circle. He loved John Williams too, which is what he got John Williams to score his Dear Basketball short film.
That Dear Basketball film was awesome.
So good.
Wow.
And but he was transitioning into the world of animation, which is why he was at this award show. He was there for his short film, but he was starting his own. I think he was calling it Kobe Studios or something. He was actually making an animation studio, and he had a huge love for animation and movies and Disney as well. So it was really cool to kind of talk to him about that and like learn. And he was like we were talking about with like ego and so he'd already kind of reached his success, and he was very nice and like. He's like, I just want to be a part of, it was almost like he was starting from the bottom because he was like, I want to be a part of your guys' world now. Like, I want to learn how animation works. I want to learn how to be a part of this. And so it was so cool kind of seeing that from the other side. And, man, yeah, it's just too bad. It's just so sad. But, yeah, he was.
Yeah, who knows what he would have done with that.
I know.
That's true. That is true.
Yeah.
But I agree.
That's true because, everything Kobe did for the most part was everything was top notch.
Yeah.
Everything was stellar. Yeah. He knew, like, for example, if he's going to collab with any composer, it's going to be the best.
It's going to be the best.
John Williams, and it's, who knew?
What a smart move.
Trevor, we've rubbed a lot of shoulders very, very close over radio. Cause I know JoJo.
Right.
And then, a lot of people at KISS, and I'm glad we kept in contact because if we didn't, the show wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
And I'm learning a lot about, what you do, but the one thing I've always known about you is your close relationship with a legend, a living legend. I'm talking about he's been in all sorts of films. He's a genius on so many levels, but I grew up watching him on Mary Poppins.
Yep.
And I think you did too.
Yep.
And we're talking about Dick Van Dyke.
Yes.
Dick Van Dyke, you know him personally.
Yeah. It still blows my mind to this day. I'm like, because I grew up as a big Dick Van Dyke fan as well. When we were talking about movies and television, I grew up watching Chitty Chitty Bang Bang and Mary Poppins and watched the Dick Van Dyke Show. And growing up, my two favorite people in the acting world were Dick Van Dyke and Jim Carrey. And so I decided to write him a letter. I was like, this is so cheesy. But I printed out these pictures of him and pictures from Mary Poppins. I gave him like 5 or something. And I was like, hey, if you can choose whatever one you like, if you write, And I sent it off to him, and I didn't expect anything back. And like months had gone by, and I just completely forgot about it.
What did you say in the letter?
Oh, man.
I'm your biggest fan.
I don't know. I didn't get the letter back.
Message?
I didn't get the letter back. But I think I said like, hey, I've watched you growing up. You're one of my biggest inspirations. Like, God, I would love to meet you one day, but I don't know if that'll ever happen. And then I also knew a lot about the composer of Mary Poppins, who I also became friends with later on in life too. Wow. So like, it was just like mind blow. Still blows my mind. And so a year later, I start working with like this third party, like Disney website doing photos and video. Disneyland was about to celebrate their big 60th anniversary. And I saw that Dick Van Dyke had an event at one of the hotels. I was like, no way. And so I was just looking on social media. I was like, darn. I wish I knew about this. And some woman was posting with him and like some other woman. And I reached out to this woman. I was like, hey, this is a random question, but I'm like, I'm doing media tomorrow at Disneyland for the 60th anniversary. I'm like, do you know if Dick Van Dyke's going to be there? Turns out I messaged his wife. I didn't know it was his wife at the time.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, oh man. She opened it. never responded. I was like, darn it. But so the next day I'm like down in the crowds. It was a very busy day at Disneyland. And I'm just looking around, just looking for things to shoot. And I see him coming through the crowd. I'm like, holy crap. And I'm like, just freeze up. And I'm like, that's him. And he just walks right past me. And I'm like, hey. And I just like, I freak out. And then his wife sees me. And she's like, hey, Trevor. She's like, I saw your message. I didn't get to reply to you. And I was like, what? And she was like, hey, Dick, come back here. And he just kept walking. And I was like, no. And then he was gone. And I was like, darn it. And she's like, sorry. She's like, maybe we'll see you on the way back out. And they ended up taking them out another way. So I didn't see them again. I was like, well, I'm like, that's as close as it's going to get.
Oh, but she tried. That was
like,
nice.
I tried. A month after that, I'm working at the for this same Disney team, and this is at the D23 Expo, which is like Comic-Con, but Disney's version of Comic-Con. So it's like all the movies, all the theme parks, everything in one big convention. And we had a booth that I was kind of volunteering at, and I would get to the convention early every morning because I'm like, I spent all day at the booth, so I didn't really get to see around the convention much. So I got there early one morning, and I decided to like kind of make like a lap around the place to kind of see like what other people are doing. I was like, oh, these are cool little booths and stuff. And there was a booth that said Dick Van Dyke on it. No way. He was across the way. And I was like,
dang it, he's everywhere.
So I'm like, oh my gosh. I remember I like begged this team I was like working with. I was like, hey, is there any chance I could step away? I'm like, I swear, like this guy's my hero. He's only here today. I need to meet him. They're like, sure. And I'm like, it probably won't take that long. Like, I'm just gonna hop in line. It won't take that long. And so I get in line, and I meet some really cool people who are still my friends to this day. And I remember watching people go in and out, taking pictures with him. Like you got like a professional photo with him, and then he could sign something. And people were just coming in and out so quick. Like they were like, no time for conversation. You just take your picture, get out. So I'm like, oh man, I can't even tell this guy
Thank you for
how much he
signing
means
my
to me.
pictures. Yeah.
I know. So I'm like, so I asked the people I was standing in line with, I'm like, do you think if I got in the back of the line, if I was the very last person to walk in there, like, do you think I would have more time with him? And they're like, you're crazy. They're like, you're crazy. We've already been standing here for an hour. And they're like, you're going to go to the back of that line. I'm like, I don't know. But I'm like, I think it might have like a better shot to like, maybe they'll give me an extra minute to talk to him. They're like, if you want to do that, you can do that. But we're not going to do that. I'm like, all right. I'm like, I just met you guys. So I'm like, see ya. Mm-hmm. No, but it's funny because we stayed connected for a long time after. But I did. I went to the back of the line, ended up waiting 3 hours.
Oh my God.
Which I don't think I would ever wait that long for anyone ever. Again. But I was like,
after he told the people he's working with, I'll be right back.
Yeah.
Yeah, they weren't too happy with me about that. They weren't too happy about that because they kept texting me. They're like, "Where are you?" I'm like, the line is moving really slow." And also, he kept taking breaks, so he would leave, and then there'd be like another like 15-minute gap. So that's also why it took so long. But so I'm the last person in there, and his wife's like, "Oh, hey, Trevor." And I was like, wow. I'm like, you remember me from a month ago? And Dick was sitting there. He's like, you two know each other? And we're like, no. I mean, not really, but we kind of. And she was talking to me and telling him who I was. And I was just, my heart was just pounding in that moment. I was like, I don't even know what to say.
You know who you are?
Yeah.
And it's funny because I ended up talking more to his wife than I was with him because I was just so nervous. I'm like, I can't look at you. I can't look at you because like, and so. Yeah, I was like, all right, we got a great picture. I think they took like 2 or 3 pictures of us together, which you could only get one, but they took a couple. And I was like, oh, wow, this is so cool. And just from that alone, like she remembered who I was. And then I was like, okay, they kind of know who I am. So I was like, that was beautiful. Mm-hmm. I could
die happy.
I could live with that. I could die happy. And so it's always a month later. It's like a month later, something else happens. So a month later, I see on social media that he's going to be celebrating his 90th birthday at Disneyland.
Cool.
I know. I was like, whoa, that's crazy. Like, and his wife had gone to like extreme lengths to, it had never been done before where Disneyland was basically celebrating one person for like a giant birthday celebration. It was crazy. And they had all these activities happening throughout the day and people flew from all over the world just to come see him at Disneyland that one day, which I'm like, that is insane, but that's awesome too. It's amazing how like one person can make that big of a difference around the entire world. And so I had reached out to her through social media. I said, hey, this is really random. I'm sure you already have somebody set up, you know, whatever. But I'm like, if you need any videos, I'm like, I'd love to do some, you know, video work, you know, love to offer you like my services for free. I'll shoot your day at Disneyland, whatever. She was like, she's like, we do have a documentary guy, but we don't really have a videographer if you want to come and like shoot some of the fan stuff. And I was like,
That's nice.
I was like, cool. I wasn't expecting a reply. And so he was actually supposed to be doing a flash mob the day before at the Grove.
Wow, that's cool.
For his 90th birthday as well. So they kind of did like a whole weekend celebration. But I didn't say anything about the Grove. I wasn't going to go to the Grove for that. I was just said the Disneyland part. I was like, yeah, I'll just do the Disneyland part. And I remember the night before. It's the night before the Grove thing. I was like, something was like, I had this like itch where I was like, I feel like I need to go to that. But I'm like, I don't really want to go to that because I think it was something like 7 a.m. and I was living in Orange County at the time. So I'm like, I'm going to have to get up there, you know, and
wake up at 5 a.m.
Wake up at 5. And this was at, I think it was like 2 a.m. when I was like having these thoughts. So I'm like, I'm only going to get 3 hours of sleep. But I don't know. For some reason, I was like, I need to be there. Yeah. I need to be there. I'm like, it sounds a little more smaller, more intimate than Disneyland. So I don't know. Something just told me, I'm like, I'll bring my camera to take pictures for fun. So yeah, I barely slept that night, drove up to the Grove. And yeah, like everybody's kind of set up there practicing and everything. And people had virtually practiced all of these dances to Mary Poppins. So cool. But people from all over the world too, again, like flew in for this. And I'm like, this is crazy. This is crazy. And his wife kind of came up to me in a panic and she was like, hey, we were supposed to have TMZ, a bunch of media outlets here today. And she's like, they had the wrong date or something and they're not showing up.
Oh, no.
So she's like, I need someone with a camera who can shoot this flash mob. And she's like, you have a camera? And she's like, you're going to shoot it. I'm like, wow, okay. Wow. Sure.
Yeah.
Like, all right. I'm like, that's...
Can't say no to her.
I know. And this is kind of when I was starting out with video as well. Like, I didn't fully trust myself at the moment.
Yeah.
So I'm like, shit.
No pressure.
I'm like, oh my God. So I'm like, I need to do a really good job. And also it was like kind of like an incentive to really push myself to do
You're like
the
focus,
best.
Camera on. Okay. SD card, it's in there. Okay. At least that.
And so...
How do I turn it on again?
Yeah.
I immediately snapped into like director mode. Because I was like, okay, she's giving me the opportunity to like direct something, which I hadn't really fully directed something before. So she was like, just tell us what you need us to do and we'll follow. And I was like, what? Okay. And so I said, I just snapped into it. I was like, I need this 4 times. I need you to perform this flash mob 4 times. And I went to all the different angles. So, but first I was like, I need to capture his angle because it was a surprise for him. So first, like I needed to get his initial reaction. And then I went around and shot all the different angles of everybody. And oh man, it was...
So he did not know. He was just supposed to walk out.
He knew that there was a crowd there below, but he didn't know what was going to happen.
Cool.
He was just like, there's people here. And then they started singing and dancing to all the Mary Poppins songs, like a little melody of it. And but that morning was such a mess, though. It was such a mess. And they were playing this music through the sound system of the Grove. But there was like this weird, the timing was off. There was like this echoing music. And the dancers were all out of sync. And so I'm like, this is a nightmare. Even his wife's like, this is a nightmare. All of us were like, this is a nightmare. They can't hear the music. And so then when I had to edit this whole thing, I had to put this soundtrack in and try to match it up with their dance moves.
Sure.
Which was a very tough job at the time. And also like, it was very time sensitive. They're like, we want this video out by the afternoon.
Yeah. Wow.
So I had to book it back to Orange County and then edit this whole thing as fast as I could, running on 3 hours of sleep. And I did. I did it all, and I was like, whew, and sent it out. And I closed my computer. I was like, all right, I'm not going to look at it again. It's up there. It's good. And I guess overnight, that video had gone viral around the world.
So we can look it up now.
You could look it up.
Okay.
Yeah. But it kind of like the Coldplay video. It went viral at the time. Mm-hmm. And it was on every news station. I was getting just message after message after message and like tagged in like a million things. I was like, your video's going around. I'm like, what? And oh my gosh. And yeah, it was shared on the news. Conan O'Brien had it on his show. Like it was just crazy stuff. And I was like, no way. And
can we watch it real quick right now?
We could.
Can I pull it
we
up?
Could, yeah.
Okay.
That's so cool.
Birthday. Okay, this one?
Yeah, that's the one.
This one.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah, so something happened here where some new music was put over it.
So this was not your music, this part?
It's not my music, yeah.
Okay.
And I think it was maybe due to copyright or something, maybe YouTube.
Okay.
Because they were all dancing to this Mary Poppins melody.
Okay.
Very amazing. There's these...
so they're dressed like the chimney people?
Yeah, they're just like the chimney sweeps. And there he was up there at the top. So he's singing along and... Oh, man, it was so fun. So his wife's down there with the group of dancers and so many other great people who organized this. Really talented dancers and friends and assistants of his as well. There we go. So after that video, and it
month
did
later.
I know after another month later, actually yes, a month later, they call me back and they're like, hey, he's actually performing in his Rancho Cucamonga, and he was doing a live show with his he had a
wow, on Rancho Cucamonga.
Yeah, he had an a cappella group. This was January 2016. So yeah, it was very at the I forget what theater it was at, but
This is probably the one at Victoria Gardens, I'm gonna assume.
The Lewis Family Playhouse?
Lewis Family Playhouse, yes. Yeah. So it was like nobody really knew about it. Oh man, that was so cool too. And then we like all went to Cheesecake Factory after and started like singing and people. It was amazing. When you look at that video and he was 90 years old, you would think he like just the movement and everything is like 40 years old or something. Like it's just he like even now, I mean, he goes to the gym all the time and he's 99 years old and going to the gym, which I mean, it's great. It's very, he has a lot of great things to say. And it's smart too, because he said, like, once your body gets that age, he said, you need to start moving. Otherwise your body's going to lock up.
Right.
So he said, you need to constantly, and most people, when they get older, they just kind of want to sit on the couch and like, just chill, watch TV. But he said, no, don't do that.
Don't get stagnant.
Yeah. He's like, don't. He's like, you got to keep moving. And he wrote a whole book about it called Keep Moving. And he just always talks about how he's always dancing and always singing. And yeah. And then it just kind of, we kept in touch over time. They asked me to do other things and also, we just like stayed as friends. And yeah.
So you guys know each other personally now, and that's incredible.
Yeah. We've had some fun times. We've gone to Disneyland afterwards a couple times since then as well. So just really cool stuff that I'm like. Which
there was a point, I'm sure, between him and his wife where she's like scoping you out. Is this kid a weirdo or is he cool? And I think that may have happened early on where she's like, you know what? He seems all right. So let's try them out here. That's the thing is I think they probably are so used to that. And I'm sure she's very selective about, who she chooses to be around. Yeah. Because, I mean, there are some weird people out there who will,
strange fans,
you just don't know what like people will do either. People do crazy things nowadays where it's just like, it's got to be, I'm sure, nerve-wracking to select who gets to be around him and all that too. But I mean, he's a very big people person though. He likes to be around people.
So let me ask you this. When you saw the Coldplay music video come out, what were your thoughts on that?
Well, it's funny because she was always telling me, I spent a lot of time with them back in 2020 because they always did like a Halloween. They do a Halloween show every year at their house out front.
Wow.
In their front yard. And it's so funny because like she loves all the more the family friendly scary stuff, like Haunted Mansion and all that stuff. He loves like scaring the crap out of little kids. That's like his favorite thing. He's like, I just want to scare them. He's like, I want to scare little kids. And like he'll dress up in costumes, or he'll have these huge animatronics in his front yard scaring kids away. And so they kind of meet in the middle. So he has a little bit of his scary stuff, and she has more of her like fun Halloween stuff. And so I went there and helped him out, like decorate and all this, and prepare for that. And it was cool. I got to go around Malibu a lot because they live in Malibu, and she was kind of showing me around the area and telling me stories and stuff. And Chris Martin doesn't live too far down from them, so like they would hang out and have lunch and stuff together. And she would tell me these stories, and there was like this little space that they both kind of love and occupy over in the Malibu area. And she kind of took me over there, and he had a bunch of his guitars and stuff. I was like, oh, that's so cool. That's Chris Martin stuff. I was like, I've always been a Coldplay fan, like growing up too. And so now it's funny to see them now. And I'm like, oh, that's so cool to see them together. And then because he had already made another music video for that song.
Yeah.
But then I guess he must have gotten together with him and said, hey, I want to do another one, but do it with you. And so that was so cool. And I'd already kind of listened to that song before that music video even came out. I was like, oh, their new album's kind of good. I like this new song. And they did that, and it changes the whole meaning of the whole song. Mm-hmm. And also Spike Jonze directed that, the director's cut, I think, which if you've seen the movie Her with Joaquin Phoenix.
I haven't, but I heard about it.
Oh my gosh, that's a great movie. That's one of my favorite movies. Not one of my top favorite, but it's one of my favorite. It's there. Okay. It's on my list. And so I was like, no way. And then he was there too. And I was like, it's just like all of my worlds are like colliding in one. And I was like, that would have been amazing to witness and be there. And she was telling me how cool it was to like have all that and get all of his grandchildren.
Yeah, I bet.
Great grandchildren. And
that's incredible. Wow.
I'm like,
the fact that you've been able to not only just meet him, but to have worked that closely with Dick Van Dyke is
one of your favorite people.
Yeah.
Right. And it's still just, I mean,
they say don't meet your.
I was going to say that. Don't meet your hero.
And you know, I met I guess Chris Martin was a hero of mine, right? You know, and then there was Morrissey, and I met Chris Martin 3 times.
Wow.
Such a nice guy to me.
Yeah.
In fact, because I remember when he was at Kiss FM, and I was JoJo's producer at the time, he comes in, and I meet him, and he's like, "Oh, hey, how you doing?" And I said, "I'm a big fan." You know, he gives me his little pen and says "love," you know, and it's like, "Oh, nice to meet." He's like, "Nice to meet you, Freddy." He goes in the studio and does his work. I'm like, "Oh, I met Chris Martin, right?" And then the second time around, it was a couple days later. I had to bring him up from the floor because there's a normal elevator, there's a freight elevator. All the celebrities go through the freight elevator.
Okay.
And so I had to meet him down at the freight elevator, and there was a stack of newspapers there that says, "Do not steal these newspapers." And so he's like, "Oh my gosh, Freddie, get a picture of me holding these newspapers," and I'm about to like run out. And I still have that photo to this day. And so I did that, and we went up and everything. And then I had to, send him off to, whoever else. And I thought, okay, that's the last time I've ever seen him again. And then when he comes out, he sees me and he goes, "Oh, and goodbye, Freddie," like that. And I'm like, he said goodbye, Freddie. Yeah. And he reached from across the room. That was so nice.
I've never heard a bad story about Chris Martin. I've never heard anything bad about him. Like,
a picture in the hallway.
I've never seen a music artist just kind of do that.
And do you feel that way about Dick Van Dyke? Like
that he's a nice guy.
Absolutely. Yeah. I say that all the time. They say don't meet your heroes, but he's the exception where he's everything you imagine, like everything you see on TV, and just spending time with him, like personally and like his personal life out of the spotlight, I guess. Mm-hmm. He's just the same. He just cracks jokes all the time, always in the best mood. Like, I feel like there's nothing can get that guy down, really. And there's not a mean bone in his body. And my God, there was just a day where I was just like walking down the hallway, and he's in a like. I think I had to ask him a question. Like his wife had asked me to go grab him or something, and he's in his room, he's in the bathroom. And he's like looking in the mirror. He's like fixing his hair and like fixing his beard, and he's just like singing to himself while he's doing. He's like, he's just like the most joyful person I've. And I'm like, wow. I'm like, he just loves life so much, and he loves to entertain. Like it's something he's loved his entire life, and I believe he started in radio as well, and it's just like for 99 years. I mean, that's something he loves so much. He's like, that's what keeps me going, is like making people laugh. And what she also says is very important. Those are like his two things, like keep moving and laugh. Those are like
that is so true.
So
that is so true.
It's so healthy.
Wow. Dick
And
Van Dyke, man, it's like a childhood legend. It's like,
yeah. And I know, it was just to see him living, it's just like amazing.
you know, when I was a child and I was watching Mary Poppins, like for like, you know, the 1,500th time, I want his charisma. I want his charisma. He has it. And I'm like, when I grow up, I want to have his charm and his charisma. It's so special.
And it's so funny because he was a big physical comedian and using his body and like falling on the ground or like hurting himself. And it's so funny listening to him talk about like stuntmen, and he's like, no, they're doing it wrong. He was talking about like Chevy Chase, and he's like, Chevy Chase falls wrong. He's like, Chevy Chase falls wrong. I'm like, I didn't know you could fall wrong, but apparently there's a way where, but it's just, it's cool to listen to him talk about like other comedians or just like talk about his way of doing things. And
well, I hope that Dick Van Dyke gets to see a little bit of the show and gets to see you talking about him.
I know. Yeah. I mean, I love them so much, and they're always so much fun to hang out with. They're a fun bunch, and hopefully I'll get to see them soon.
Trevor, is there anything you want to throw out? Anything you want to shout out real quick before we end this episode?
Shout out.
On YouTube.
Well, first of all, thank you to you and you. Thank you. And I'm excited to see where this goes from here. I'm excited to watch all your new episodes. I've watched all your episodes so far, so I'm excited to see more.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
I guess thank you to my dad. I don't know if I'd be here without my dad. Actually, in this
Shout out to your dad.
Studio, yeah. And then I guess my whole family for like getting me into everything that I've gotten into, and of course the Van Dyke family for accepting me into their lives, and all the fun experiences we've had. His wife Arlene, she's amazing, and he's just the energy, just always a fun time with them. And then, gosh, I don't know. I guess all my friends who are still in the entertainment realm with me, and we're still going, we're still getting there.
Yeah,
still
fighting the good fight.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And yeah, it's a tough time right now, but we're all.
Last question: what's your favorite ride at Disneyland?
Oh, that's a good question.
Oh, that's a great question. I always gravitate towards Pirates of the Caribbean. That's always like
it's a classic.
It's a classic.
I love that.
It's a great nap ride. It's a great ride for AC, but also there's something about the smell in the water that just draws you back, and like I can even picture it in my head.
No, I can
There's something
smell
about
it
it.
now.
Yeah.
There's something about it where I don't know. It's just really relaxing, and every time I would go, it would be the one ride I'd have to go on, like every visit. Like I have to go on that for some reason.
My favorite one too.
Yeah.
Besides the Haunted Mansion.
I still like Space Mountain.
Besides the Haunted Mansion.
Oh yes, of course.
Have you
of
felt?
course. Well, ladies and gentlemen, first time on the podcast, and
on any podcast.
We're thankful you came all the way down from Van Nuys, where I used to take flying lessons.
Right.
Ladies and gentlemen, Trevor Perez.
Thank you for having me. Thank you guys. Are you going to be doing a show from the air? From the air?
That would be a great idea. We thought about that actually. It's a little expensive, but I think if we get a budget,
there you go. On the air, in the air.
Yeah. Exactly. Cool. All right, that's it. That's
all right.